Welcome back to Top 5 Auto Repairs. How do you know you have a bad oil filter housing and it's time to change it? If you have a drop in oil pressure and the oil pressure warning light turning on and you have a mysterious engine oil leak somewhere, the problem might be your oil filter housing. The oil filter housing is mounted somewhere on the engine block and is going to contain an inlet and outlet port, maybe an oil pressure sensor mounted on the oil filter housing, and it's going to contain this part here where the oil filter is screwed into. The number one reason why oil filter housing fell, number one, is going to be due to leaks. Leaks can occur right at the oil filter housing gasket on this area over here. It can leak right here at the port due to worn hoses, and it can also leak right over here when the thread becomes stripped. The thread on the oil filter housing can become stripped if you mount the oil filter at an angle and crooked and you force it in there. Over time, it's going to cause this part to become distorted, and that's going to contribute to a leak. The next reason why oil filter housing fell is going to be cracks. In modern vehicle, most oil filter housing is made of plastic, and plastic is extremely brittle and it's extremely easy to crack it, especially when you over torque something. What I have here is an oil filter wrench for a Toyota. Basically, this part here goes on the top end of the oil filter housing, and that oil filter housing on a Toyota is made of plastic. It is so easy to break the oil filter housing on a Toyota, especially when you try to loosen it and you apply too much torque and the housing break, or you over tighten it and again apply too much force, the housing breaks. I have seen these plastic oil filter housing break on European vehicles such as BMWs, Audis, and so on. If you see leaks coming around from the oil filter housing, don't automatically think that it's the oil filter seal that's causing it, because you're just overlooking the issue. Look around the oil filter housing again, check for leaks right at the gasket area over here, check for leaks right at the port, check for cracks on the oil filter housing. It can be quite challenging to replace the oil filter housing depending on the design. Sometimes it's in an area where it's easy to get to, and sometimes it's in a location that is hard to get to. For this vehicle, since it's a Ford, it's very easy to replace it, and it only contains 4 bolts and a gasket. If you have a plastic oil filter housing and when you want to change that oil filter, take your time on it. Use PB Blaster, use WD-40, spray a lot of penetrating oil on it, let it soak for a little bit, and then try to break it loose. I hope you found this video useful. As always, thank you for watching and subscribe to Top 5 Auto Repairs.